to be successful, you really need sort of three pieces, sort of a three-legged stool. You need the skill set, you need the mindset, and you need the accountability.
Hey friends, it's Steve. Want to know how a $5 book lands a $5,000 client? I've recorded a 15-minute video showing you our magnetic author method. It's up now at magneticauthor.co/video. Welcome to the Unstoppable CEO podcast. I'm your host, Steve Gordon, and I've got an awesome interview for you today. It is perfectly timed for getting yourself prepared for next year and really making next year the best year ever. Today, I'm talking with Laura Posey. She's a repeat guest on the podcast. She is an internationally recognized speaker, author, and consultant. And she's known as the Simple Planning Specialist. That is her unique ability to simplify and to sort of laser focus her clients so that they get really dramatic results. And her simple strategic plan is used by over 3,000 companies all over the world, everything from startups to Fortune 100. She's also the author of How to Plan Your Entire Year on One Sheet of Paper, which is an amazing book. If you don't have it, you need to get it. And she's the co-author with Jack Canfield of Mastering the Art of Success. Laura is just amazing at really bringing this whole idea of planning your business down to something pretty simple that you'll actually use. And we're going to talk about that today. Laura Posey, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Steve. Love being here with you.
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk about this, particularly given the time of year. And everybody's thinking about next year, and I got to make it even better. And I would imagine that some people are looking at the outside world going, well, things are going to maybe be a little bit chaotic coming up. And I got to be ready for that too. And really, I think your process is perfectly suited to both of those things. So before we get into all of that, just give everybody a quick, background and context on you and how you decided and became the sort of guru on planning.
Well, I've been doing this for 21 years now. So I spent the first 10 years really learning things the hard way and just ridiculous amounts of trial and error. And I really sort of painted myself into a corner. I got to a place where I just absolutely hated my business. Like I hated my business more than I had hated the corporate job I had prior to that. And to me, that's saying a lot because I was not cut out for corporate. And so I had a business partner that I just wanted to murder every day, which is, never healthy. I had tons of overhead in my business. We had a big space. We had employees. We had all the things that I really don't want in my world. And so I realized that the way I had gotten there was because I didn't have a plan. I just kind of came out of corporate and started a business and did the things that I knew how to do. I was in sales management, so I knew how to sell, but I didn't know how to structure a business. I didn't know how to really create a business that suited the lifestyle that I really wanted. And honestly, I wasn't entirely sure like what lifestyle I did want. I was kind of seduced by all of the stuff that I was seeing and reading. It's like you see the guy sitting on the hood of his Ferrari and you think, oh man, that must be really cool to, have enough cash. And you're like, I could go spend a couple $100,000 on a car and, the houses. And I thought, well, maybe that's what I want. And it really took me kind of hitting rock bottom and getting just completely distressed and pissed off. And then going on a retreat and having a bit of a near-death experience for me to really kind of get my head straight and go, all right, wait a minute. I need to just hit the reset button here and get super clear about what I want in my life, what is really important, the things I want to have, but also the things that I want to do, the impact that I want to have, and to condense that down to, what do I need to change? What do I really need to be doing to do that and to stop doing all the other stuff? So that's the quick and dirty.
I think you said something really important there. You had to sort of figure out what you wanted.
Yeah.
I think that's really hard.
It is shockingly hard. I really do think we get, seduced by all of the other stuff. We see people doing things and they look happy. So we think, oh, well, if I just do what they're doing and have what they have, then I'll be happy. I mean, all you have to do is like turn on HGTV and you look around your house suddenly and you go, oh my God, I'm living in a pit. I need to go spend $200,000 on a new kitchen, and that's what makes people happy. And I think we have to really dig deep and go, all right, what do I really want in my life? Like I've got this limited amount of time. How do I want to be spending it? And, I didn't want to be spending it driving to an office every day and wearing a suit and doing the same training over and over and, dealing with office politics and dealing with a business partner who did not share any of my core values. And, it's like, I really want that entrepreneurial freedom. And, we look at, the money freedom. It's like, okay, how much money do you need to feel like you can have the things that you want without stress? The time freedom, what do you really want to be doing with your time? And the emotional freedom, like, what do you want to feel like every day when you get up? And so we really focus on helping people get clear on those things first, and then structuring and creating a business that delivers those things. Because otherwise you just do what you know, right? And if all you know is corporate structure and corporate stress, well, guess what? That's what you build, whether you want to or not.
Yeah. Well, and I think it almost takes sometimes going through, maybe it doesn't. Sometimes I think it's a generational thing. So I was talking with an entrepreneur yesterday who's much younger than I am, and he started off very intentionally.
Yeah.
And I look at a lot of the folks that are my age, and I'm, in my early 50s, who had sort of that corporate experience. And I think it's harder sometimes for us to think creatively about what can we really create? Like, what can we build outside of the structure that we grew up with,
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's not that. Maybe that's just a perception, but I've seen that pop up more than once. But this is really, I think, very important for business owners to really grapple with, because you can build something that absolutely makes you miserable and does all of the opposites of what you want. It creates zero time freedom. It creates zero financial freedom, and it keeps you laying awake at night stressed because you built this monster.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I spent years thinking I have to have a 7-figure business. Like, that's the minimum bar for success. And then I sat down one day and I was like, well, let me talk to some people that have done it and find out, what's on the other side of that number. And, as I interviewed them and I talked to them, they all kind of said the same thing. They said between $250,000 in revenue and $1 million in revenue, your personal income doesn't change. Like, you're still going to make the same amount. You're spending all of your extra cash growing the business, investing in team, and, basically onboarding more mouths to feed and creating a bigger machine. And I thought, oh, wait a minute, that's what I left. That sounds awful. And, so I realized that, you can have an amazing freaking business far under $1 million. It's not the holy grail. And if you structure it right, you can keep the majority of the revenue, right? It flows right through into your pocket. And you can have a really nice, low stress, easy, fun life with plenty of free time and enough money to do all the stuff that you want to do. I mean, it's not Ferrari, 8-bathroom house money, but, and if that's your thing, like, I'm not your gal, but my clients they just want to have a really kick-ass lifestyle, right? They want to have enough money to travel and help their families and do the things they want to do. And they want to get up every day and feel like they're making a difference and have some purpose and enjoy the work that they're doing. They want to have a small team of contractors that they can outsource stuff to, so they don't have to do the crap that they don't enjoy or the stuff that they're not good at. But they don't want to go back into that, managing corporate employees type of thing. That's why they left corporate. So I've just built my business around the things that were important to me and have ended up attracting people that, share the same values and want the same kind of things.
I think that's true of most every business, is that you tend, particularly when you're the face of the
Yeah.
business, you tend to attract people who think like you
Yeah.
and who want the things that you want.
Yeah.
And particularly, in the expertise space where you're transferring your expertise to them. That's really
Mhm.
what they're coming for.
Yeah.
And that actually makes attracting them a lot easier because
Yeah.
you know them intimately. They
Right.
are
You
like
you
you.
are your avatar, right?
Right.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
kind of the holy grail. And the people that I see struggling, like I've got a client right now who has always been in the sort of personal wellness space and is now trying to break into the corporate space. She's never worked in corporate. And so she's got this huge learning curve of understanding what her target avatar is really going through and really living with. And, it's just a huge disconnect and she's struggling with it, and I keep
Yeah.
trying to go like, stick to your knitting, do what you know how to do.
Well, and so kind of bringing it back to the idea of planning, I mean, that sort of understanding who you're trying to attract is central to planning, because that
Absolutely.
helps,
Yeah.
make a lot of the other decisions easier. And I see business owners struggle with this all the time. And I'm wondering if you run into it as well, as they think that the market that they're going after is for some reason too small, or they've tapped it out.
Yeah. I mean, all you have to do is just Google whatever market it is. I mean, you could, Google, one-armed yogis, and you'd probably only need 5% of the market to be deliriously happy. Right. I mean, every market is huge. And I think we just forget how huge all the markets are. And we just need such a tiny percentage of any market. And, as let's just have a marketing discussion. The more narrowly you focus, the easier it is to attract the right people, because they immediately go, oh my gosh, you're speaking directly to me and you have a community of people like me. And, there's an old saying, birds of a feather flock together, which is actually true. So, total aside, I have a friend that has chickens. She's got like 100 chickens now, and she's just super interested in buying like all these different kinds of chickens. And the chickens of the same color hang out together. Like
Really?
the whole birds of a feather thing is absolutely true. It is so weird.
Yeah, it's funny. Some of these old sayings, these cliches that we've all grown up with and now
Yeah.
tend to ignore, actually reveal a lot about reality. I'm
Yeah.
sure about the chickens, we know it reveals a lot about human beings. Uh,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah,
I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a true thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's crazy. So, kind of coming back around to
Yeah.
planning, you boiled it all down to this
Mhm.
one-page plan,
Yep.
and the process you have is, I believe, is really effective, at least in my experience with it. But what makes that so useful for a business owner who's trying to do things? Why that and not, create the binder full of strategies?
Yeah, I mean, it ultimately comes down to what you're going to use, right? And I find that, a lot of entrepreneurs have some shiny object syndrome. It's easy for them to get distracted. And so having that one sheet of paper in front of them is really helpful. The other thing about the one sheet of paper is that it really forces you to decide what is most important, because you've only got so much space to put all of that information that you need to keep in front of you. And the root of the word decide means to cut out or cut away. And so, but by deciding, you're deciding what to do, but you're also deciding what not to do. Because ultimately, if it's not on that sheet of paper, you're not doing it this year, right? It doesn't mean you're not doing it. It just means not now. And so, we often have a second sheet of paper called the not now list. And so as all this shiny, interesting stuff comes up, it's like, whoo, just put it on your not now list. When you get your plan done, you can go do all that stuff. What's fascinating about that to me is that I hear over and over and over again when people go look at their not now list with a bit of, time and distance, they look at those things and think, oh my God, I'm so glad I didn't do that. That was just a total distraction. What a stupid thing to do. And they're going through and crossing stuff off their not now list because with a little bit of time and distance, they realize, no, that was just a shiny thing. And it sounded exciting because, somebody pitched it really well.
Yeah, I love that. And having that placeholder
Yeah.
for the shiny things.
Yeah.
It's so simple, but it makes you feel like you're not passing up on the opportunity.
Right. Yeah.
But it gives you that space to kind of think. And I also think there's some magic in, you've physically confined the plan.
Yeah.
By giving it this 1-page space, eight and a half inches by 11 inches of physical space, whether it's in a Google Doc or, on a piece of paper, it's still constrained by that. I find that the human brain is just attracted to those sorts of boundaries. It thinks better when you give it those kind of physical boundaries. And so as you're taking people through this, who haven't maybe done this kind of planning before, what do they experience? What are some of the ahas that often come out of it?
I think one of the things that happens is they really understand the concept of alignment, right? That your business goals are aligned with and completely support your personal goals, right? So it's like, what do you want in your life? All right, well, let's build a business that delivers that. And so that those two things are in perfect harmony, they're in perfect alignment. They support the business supports the person. And then the other thing is, as we start to look at those goals and we start to chunk them down and it's not a matter of, saying, oh, I want to, make $240,000 this year. So that means it's, $20,000 a month. And that means it's, $5,000. It's not that kind of chunking down. It's not just taking the number and making it smaller because that doesn't help, right? The question is still like, okay, well, how do I make $5,000 a week? Right? The ultimate question is, what do I have to change in my business? And so that becomes, what are the projects that have to get done in my business? So a goal broken down is not just smaller goals. It's projects, it's changes that have to happen in the business. And then those projects can be broken down further into tasks. And those tasks are things that you can accomplish. And when you make them small enough and you write them in a way that your brain goes, oh, I know exactly what you want me to do. Boom, you are instantly a productivity machine. We all have this sort of innate desire to check things off, right? We get a little shot of dopamine every time we check something off our list or complete something. We get a little happy chemical. And so our bodies crave that. And if we can get it in something healthy, like getting stuff done in our business, that's a whole lot better than getting it from scrolling through Facebook, right? Or binge watching TV or playing a video game or something. And so, during the workday, if you've got your task list structured so that it's like, oh man, I can check these things off. I can get all these things done. And that they're the right things to get the projects done. When the projects are done, the goals just happen, right? I use a weight loss example a lot because I think a lot of people have had some experience with exercise and changing their eating habits and stuff. And it's like, losing weight is not complicated. It's eating the right breakfast, the right lunch, the right dinner, and, eating the right amount of calories and getting some exercise and doing some movement to build your energy and build your muscle base. And that's the basis of health. Like it's just super basic when you get down to it. And we can do the same thing with the business. We can just say, okay, like what has to happen today? What are the things that need to get checked off? And let's make them appetizing. Let's make them things that you want to have and that you want to do, and not like, oh God, more broccoli, really.
So you get the whole plan kind of on a single page. What normally would that look like? You talked about understanding what needs to change in the business and articulating that, and
Yep.
then breaking that down into projects and
Yep.
further into tasks. But I imagine you're not getting all the tasks on
No, the
that
tasks
page,
now.
right?
No. We get, so we have your business goals for the year, right? Like how much revenue do you want? How much income? How much time off do you want? And how do you want to feel about your business, right? Like what is that emotional piece to it? We also put some bucket list items on the plan, right? Because part of the fun of life is checking off those bucket list items and going, I did that. That's so cool. So we have those on there. One of the things that we have on the plan, so we have the goals and we have all the projects for the year. We limit the number of projects to 16, so 4 per quarter. And we have a little tool that we use in the back end called the Success Circle. And the Success Circle has the 12 sort of pieces of a business laid out in the order in which you need to work on them. And so we have folks work through and if you remember those old life wheel circles where you colored in like, how good is your financial life? And how good is your spiritual life? And how good is your family life? And folks would say, well, if that was a wheel, it wouldn't roll very well. So let's get some balance in these things. It's the same thing with the Success Circle. So we go through and we have folks look at, okay, where am I? How am I doing with my target market? How's my offer? How am I doing with lead gen? Do I have a defined sales process? How am I doing on service delivery? How am I doing on financial management? And looking at all of these different pieces and then going, okay, well, let's look at the place where you have deficits and let's start at the beginning. Target audience is the beginning. And let's systematically work through, okay, what projects do we need to do to develop your target audience? And so we actually have a list of, here are the most common projects for each piece of the Success Circle. And so you don't have to just kind of go, I don't know what the projects are. You've got some to choose from and go, oh yeah, you know what? I don't actually have any of those. Okay, great. Those are going to be your first projects and you're going to knock those out. And then you're going to go to the next piece of pie and go, okay, what are the gaps in my offer, right? Here are the common projects around your offer. Well, let's check those things off. And those are the projects that go on your plan. And it just brings some structure and some order to what do I need to do now? And so the other thing that we have on the one page, two things that I think are really helpful. One is looking at the top 3 obstacles that you feel like you're going to face in the next year, and then coming up with the very best solution for working through or around that obstacle, right? So, sometimes the obstacles are personal things like, you don't have a lot of energy. It's like, okay, well, what do you personally need to do to amp up your energy? Or if it's an external thing, like you think the economy is going to tank, inflation's going to be high. Okay, well, what do you personally need to do? Well, you probably ought to be stockpiling cash and using other people's money to grow your business. I mean, you kind of use other people's money anyway to grow your business, but that's another discussion. And then the other thing that we have on there is what we call weekly rituals. And each week, you generally have 3 rituals that you do that are the really important things that need to be done, but that often don't get done. So, for example, we suggest you have a money date. So you take an hour each week and you just have a date with your money. Like, make it nice, get a glass of wine, sit in a comfortable chair and look at your money, right? Look at your cash flow, look at who owes you money, look at what money you're going to have to pay, look at your revenue, and just have like a really intimate conversation with your money. So those are the things that we put on our one page.
Well, I'll tell you the piece that jumps out at me is the list of projects for the stage that you're at.
Yeah.
Because I think that's where a lot of people really go sideways on this, because trying to create a business is like trying to build a car from scratch while it's running down the highway at 70 or 80 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you haven't put all the parts together yet. So you've only got 2 wheels and no brakes, and the steering wheel still, being shipped to you. So it's a little scary sometimes. And you don't know what should I work on first, because it's all seemingly urgent and important.
Yeah. Yeah.
So having that broken down, I think, is tremendously valuable. I
Yeah.
mean, if forget all of the other reasons to go through your process, that's the reason. If you didn't
Yeah.
have any other reason to do it,
Yeah.
just knowing like, here's the roadmap, because
Right.
that makes things so easy for people.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why we created it. I mean, it was one of those things I had that aha moment. I was like, people aren't getting the results that I desperately want them to get. What's missing? And I realized that it was happening at the project level. They knew what a project was and how to, they knew like, oh, I need to change these things in my business. And they could look at the success circle and go, all right, yeah, I know I need to fix my lead gen, but I don't know how, like, I don't know what to put as a project other than fix lead gen, but that doesn't help me, right? I can't break that down into tasks. And so, when we were able to break that down and go, oh, here are all the different things that you can do to develop your lead gen. And, it's pick the project that you want, right? There's 20 different ways to do lead gen. Look at those and go, yeah, I hate LinkedIn. I'm not going to do that one. Facebook ads. Nope. Right. Podcast guesting. Hey, that might be kind of an interesting thing. Right. Yeah. Maybe I want to solve for this. And, and there's other details in there, like, creating lead magnets and all sorts of things. But we wanted to give people a track to run on and to be able to look at things. And, it's like target audience. It's like, well, what does that mean? So one of the things we have in there is, interview 10 people that you think might be your target audience and find out what the hell their problems are, and if you haven't done that, how do you know what their problems are? Right. And ultimately you're going to create, your target audience sheet. You're going to have your avatar. Right. But a lot of times people are like, well, I don't know how to get there. Well, okay, well, here's some projects you can do ahead of that.
So we talked a lot about marketing. What are some of the other phases that, you work people through? I guess these would fall under the sort of big changes that need to be made in the business.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of them is on like service delivery, right? Really optimizing the way you deliver value to your clients and, taking a look at your business model and saying, should I be doing one-to-one? Should I be working with groups? Should it be some sort of a hybrid? What's the right way for me to get maximum value for my clients at the right price point and still free me up to do all the things that I want to do? Because one of the things that I see, particularly with coaches and consultants, when they get successful, they get busy. Like their calendar is full and they're exhausted. And it's like, that's called a job. It's not why we started this. And then that sort of leads into the team piece of things. So, really looking at how do I outsource some of these things? And outsourcing, first of all, the stuff that you suck at, you should be getting other people to do. Most of us can't design our way out of a paper bag. We should not be spending 15 hours with Canva trying to create something. We should just go to Fiverr, pay somebody $20, sketch out on a piece of paper what you want, send them the sketch, a couple revisions later, it's awesome. And you've just saved yourself, 12 of those 15 hours. And so looking at, outsourcing the things that you're not good at, outsourcing the things that you absolutely hate, and then outsourcing the parts of you that you can clone, right? So that you're really operating in your own personal zone of genius, the stuff that only you can do and the stuff that you love to do that lights you up. And then, how do you systematize and automate those things so that they run without you having to be a full-time manager again?
I want to talk for a minute about the role of accountability in this process, because it's one thing to create the plan. Like we're all getting to that time of year. We're all going to make the plan.
Yeah.
I like to take a week, towards the end of the year and not do anything else and just think, and that's great. But now you get into January.
Yeah.
January usually is pretty good, the first couple of weeks, you're fired up, things are going well. And then you get into February and things are getting busy. And then you hit March. Yeah. And I find that March is like the hardest month in the year because you're starting to now get friction. in all of
Yep.
this, right?
Yep.
What's the role and how do you handle the accountability with people you work with? Is it like,
Yeah.
hey, here's your plan, see you next year? Like,
Yeah.
how do you take them through the whole year so they actually get results?
Yeah. So we sort of have two pieces of our business. So we have the planning piece. We have a program called Plan to Win. And then on the back end of that, we have a program called the Winner's Circle. And that's our weekly group coaching program, because what we found is that to be successful, you really need sort of three pieces, sort of a three-legged stool. You need the skill set, you need the mindset, and you need the accountability. And the skill set's the easy piece, right? The information on how to do something, not a problem. It's the mindset and the accountability piece that get in people's way, right? The mindset piece is we're just hardwired to fall back into what we've always done before, right? It's easy. It's what we know. And we are actually biologically wired to do that. So having somebody outside of our own head who can help us see clearly, oh, I actually can break through and create a new set of habits and create a new level of operating that's easy. And then I can create another new level of operating that's easy. That's super helpful. And most of us can't do it for ourselves. We always say coaches need coaches. We're just too close to it. And once you get inside your own head, man, you're lost, right? You need somebody to get you out of that. And then the accountability piece is, I think we all need somebody to be responsible too. Most of us are terrible at keeping promises to ourselves. We're great at keeping promises to other people, right? And so that accountability is, it starts out as hand holding. Like, let me guide you, let me help you, let me encourage you. And if need be, it gets into butt kicking. It's like, look, you said you wanted to do this, dude. Like, what's stopping you? And oftentimes, that sort of loops back into the mindset piece, right? We want to go to skill set. Well, I don't know how. And it's like, the how's easy. Come on. You go to YouTube, Google it. There's a video, right? It's the mindset piece. Why don't you think you can do this? And then, that mindset and that accountability piece are so woven tightly together.
Yeah, and I think to really make progress, I think that's one thing most people discount in all of this, the importance of having those two pieces,
Yeah.
and particularly the external accountability.
Yeah.
Whether they get it through a program like yours or some other way, but having that so that you actually have to show up and report your
Yeah.
progress towards your goals. Because if you
Yeah.
don't, it's easy to let yourself off the hook. We've all done it.
Yeah.
We all do it,
Absolutely. Yeah.
right? There's always a reason why we didn't make it, but that reason is a whole lot less impressive when we have to verbalize it to somebody
Yeah.
else, and
Yeah.
we're looking at their face and the reaction isn't what we'd hoped.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. We actually have our clients form accountability teams so that they've got support from lots of different areas, because different people support in different ways. And so we find these accountability teams work really, really well. And then it's my job to keep the teams on track and keep them accountable. But we find our clients are like organizing accountability teams or organizing meetings and stuff. Like we have one team, they have their GSD hour every Friday. It's their get stuff done hour. And they all get together on Zoom and say hi, and then they just put their head down and work. And at the end of the hour, they report back, hey, here's what I got accomplished during our time together today.
Yeah, it's amazing how well those sorts of things
Yeah.
work, as silly as it sounds. But, for a lot of people, particularly the way, a lot of entrepreneurs are operating where it's solo or they're in very small teams, but the team is mostly support people, not higher level. A
Yeah.
lot of people aren't working with partners,
Mhm.
and I think that's a great thing. I think that's a factor of how little capital is required to create a business these days. In the past,
Yeah.
you sort of needed partners to help you run the infrastructure and amass the
Absolutely.
capital and everything. And you just don't need it anymore. But you lose the value of having that other person as well. So
Right.
bringing that in with other business owners, I think is hugely valuable. So I know you've got a program coming up.
Yep.
And it would be wrong of us to not mention that for people who are going, yeah, this makes sense. I probably should use some help as I go into the new year.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about some of the offerings you have, because I know you've got
Yep.
some free training that you're going to be doing, and then
Yep.
that'll roll into, for people who want it, the
Mhm.
Plan to Win program and
Yep.
there. So how does all that work?
Yep. So I've got 5 free webinars that I'm doing in December. They're Tuesdays and Thursdays in December, starting December 8th. And they're from 1 to 2:30 p.m. Eastern. We keep everything super tight and organized. And we're going to be teaching people how to plan your entire year on one sheet of paper. Like, we're going to walk through, what are the obstacles? What are the things that keep people from achieving their goals, right? What are the 4 things that we see that people get really hung up on? We're going to then show them, like, here's what goes on that one sheet of paper. We're going to walk you through that. And then we're going to show you our 3-step process. And that one sheet of paper is actually the middle piece, right? So there's the getting a lifestyle piece done first, then there's getting the business piece done, and then there's drilling it down to, what do I need to do today? So, how do you use a daily success checklist to get hyper focused and get everything accomplished today? So we're going to walk them through all of that. We also have, for folks that are coming to the webinar, we've got a really cool quiz to help them discover their natural productivity type. And during that session, we're going to show them how to leverage that productivity type. So instead of going, hey, you have to become a completely different person to get all of this done, it's like, no. You don't have to become a different person. You just have to learn how your productivity type operates and how to get the most out of it, right? How to make it a strength instead of a weakness. And so we're going to walk through that during our time together as well.
That's great. And then from there, the program begins, what,
Yep,
January?
it does. Yep. It begins, I was looking at my calendar here. It begins the first class is going to be December 27th. And that's our kickoff call, where we sort of walk through that, what to expect, how to get into everything, the mechanics of it. And that's where we start to do the lifestyle design. And then we'll meet every Tuesday for 6 weeks after that.
That's great. That's great. Well, Laura, I'm excited to share this with everybody, because it's important. Getting organized and getting your thinking clear going into, a new year in business. Everybody starts with all kinds of excitement, because it's like, we've got a clean slate again.
Yep.
That feeling, it's like you get I remember back in the day when everybody had a paper planner, and you got the new planner in, and you marked everything off, and there were so many possibilities.
Yeah.
And this is a really simple, straightforward way to turn those possibilities into reality. So we're going to link those free training sessions up in the show notes. So for anybody listening, if you want to find those and attend those in December, you'll find a link for those in the show notes. So if in your podcast player, just look in the notes there, or you can go on our website, look for this episode, and you'll find it there. Where else should people go to kind of learn more about what you're doing?
They can go to our homepage, simplesuccessplans.com. And we've got some free tools and some free resources for them there. And we'll also have all of the webinar schedules and everything there as well.
Awesome. Laura Posey, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today and giving me a little bit of your time. This has been awesome. And I hope a lot of people go and take advantage of your process. It's a great process.
Thanks for having me, Steve. This is my favorite thing to talk about.